The morning of craziness has arrived.
It has. It has. You doing well?
Yeah, I'm Granby. I thought about wearing an MCON shirt this week. Didn't.
Shout out to MCON.
Yeah. I guess they launched their Kickstarter last week or late last week, maybe. Last time I checked, it was over 800 grand. Good for them. I would imagine that's the highest in Virginia's history.
Well, I saw on LinkedIn they were awarded with they received an award at CES in Vegas of some Kickstarter award. Like I don't know, I can't remember what it was, but they received something a couple days ago or yesterday.
Got it. Well, kudos to them. Thought about wearing that shirt. Then I realized, you know what? Is this the first show of the year? Maybe it's the second show of the year. I don't know. I can't remember. But I'm sticking to the streak of black tees.
Yeah, man. Yeah. So 891,000. Just call it 753. Let's call it 892,000. I think they still got like 35 days to go.
Yeah. I texted you last week that they were going to hit 1 million.
And they do have that $1 million stretch goal that that they announced, which is cool. Happy for them.
Yeah, good for them. Cool stuff.
You feeling like this is a long week, Zach? This is the first week that we have, the first full week in what seems to have been several weeks with all of the holiday slowdown, if you will, man. I don't do good with breaks, but I feel like this has been a really long week.
I still don't know what day it is. I just realized that. I'm like, okay, yeah, it's Thursday. Yeah. And there's five days of playoff football in a row, 2 college footballs. Then you got the other games. Yours, what day was yours?
Sunday,
1:00. Okay, got it.
Yep.
We're Sunday at night. Yeah, it'll be fun couple days, I guess. And I don't know. Big premiere this week. WWE Monday Night Raw on Netflix.
Oh, did that happen Monday?
Mm-hmm.
Everything go well? No buffing issues or anything?
I knew that wasn't going to happen.
Yeah,
like
they did enough
they do.
Testing to make sure that those things ironed out. Yeah,
Triple H, who is like the I don't know what his actual role is, but he's a former wrestler. He kind of runs the joint type of thing. He was like, "Look, they've done some tests. We do this every week. It's going to be fine." I don't know how many people tuned in, but it's on the Netflix like top series.
Yeah.
And I was just thinking about that this morning. I was like, you know what, from a marketing perspective, that could just stay there all year, every day.
Probably so.
Right? And so you got to think that at some point, someone's going to be like, well, what is this? Tune in, watch it, maybe get hooked. And every single one of them is just a new one to the ticker, if you will. So
yeah,
from a marketing perspective, it's pretty smart.
Yeah, good for them. A lot of cool stuff. It's been an interesting start of the year. I'm hearing a lot of cool stuff about Vegas right now with the CES that's going on. A lot of interesting things.
Is it weird that I would think that like 99% of the things there become flops, and the amount of money that is thrown at that is just. But I guess that's the game. Like, why is CES like what? Am I wrong on that? Like,
I don't know, but I mean, coincidentally enough, today's guest, Charlie O'Brien, is coming live from Las Vegas.
Hey, what's going on?
You can probably give us
allegedly. Although,
I mean,
I can't tell.
Charlie, what's your take? It seems like NVIDIA, is stealing the show. That just seems to be like the big thing.
What is?
Yeah, NVIDIA is stealing the show. I just want to say, first of all, thank you for having me on, guys. This is such a pleasure to be here. I've been looking forward to this for a while, and I'm honestly a little nervous. I wasn't thinking that I would be, but I'm a little nervous. So it's really cool to be here.
Yeah. What are you nervous about?
Just having to talk about, NVIDIA and how it's stealing the show, man. It's worrying.
Wow.
But yeah, I think, what's interesting about NVIDIA is, I mean, first of all, obviously their chip game is just absolutely unparalleled, but it's going to be interesting to see how the chip game pivots, especially now that we're seeing LLMs being pretty much created on-prem, and seeing like what will happen with NVIDIA relative to that. Like, are they going to enter into that space? Are they going to start pre-training models? It looks like they are pre-training models. They released a bunch of free models too. So I think you're right. Like, from what I could tell so far.
You're good.
You guys there? Okay. From what I could tell, I guess it's just a little trick of the trade. Okay, good. You know, from what I could tell, it seemed like they really did steal thunder.
Well, yeah, they are at the top of their game for sure. And man, they're just running circles around everyone. They have infinite amount of cash, and
yes,
it's.
I think about them versus OpenAI a lot. I think about how they're going to cannibalize OpenAI's market. Obviously, right now, OpenAI has like the largest percentage of consumer share in that. But if they're struggling to raise capital, which it seems like they are, and now they're actually looking to return value to shareholders, and then NVIDIA could just release a model for free, then it's like, what do you even need OpenAI for, right? And does OpenAI essentially then get cannibalized or just bought, I guess, by Microsoft?
Yeah,
So I've been thinking
there's
a lot about
of people, calling that OpenAI has peaked. They have hit the top of their valuation, and
it's great.
Yeah, exactly what you were saying.
I mean, they're going to have to build a great product on top of what they've built. And I think, you know, if anyone is going to do it, I think that they've just put in a new technical leadership team. So clearly they've got some new vision. Hopefully they've got some really creative people looking to do something outside the box. And I hope that they do something really interesting. That's my hope. I mean, I love OpenAI, honestly. I think it's a great story for a startup and someone who essentially climbed to the top of the startup, you know, support organization game, and then used that leverage to be able to start, you know, a billion-dollar company.
Yeah, it's all interesting stuff. I mean, Sam is such a great deal maker.
Oh yes,
yeah.
Lots to learn.
Being able to negotiate so many things, but like outside of NVIDIA, anything capture your attention while you're walking the floors in Vegas?
Yeah, so it's actually really interesting because I feel like, you tell me, have you guys like heard sort of like this agentic AI movement?
Go ahead.
No.
Okay, so there's kind of this thought that the next revolution of artificial intelligence goes from chatbots, right, where you're interacting just based on text, to agentic AI, which is essentially that you're going to give them some sort of prompt. Let's say, hey, go do my laundry, or hey, go do my Excel spreadsheet for the month.
Oh yeah. Okay, so you're talking agents. So yeah.
Yes.
So yeah, got it. Yeah,
yes.
You threw that extra syllable
Agentic.
or two. That threw me off. Yeah, no, the agent game is that's going to change everything like crazy.
Big time. Yeah. And so I was fascinated. I thought, you know, I'd come to CES. Of course, it's consumer electronics, so it's kind of a bit of a different game. But there was not really anyone with agents sort of like out there, you know, kicking and reeling. And I had heard too that Y Combinator had put out like essentially a request for proposals for investment in agentic software. So verticalized, really niche agents. And so I expected there to be kind of more of a show of that. And I expected, honestly, NVIDIA and all the other big players as well to really be talking about that, hyping that up, talking about what they're doing in it. And to me, it seems like no one really even knows what an agent actually is. So I mean, so it's really fascinating.
To bring everybody up to speed is that, you know, anything that you do on the computer, you as a human, you can then get an agent to work on your behalf, and they will then do it for you.
Yeah, and I think the one key thing I would add there, Tim, is like, you know, have you ever played around with RPA, like UiPath, Zapier, stuff like that?
Very, very little, but
okay. So those sorts of systems have existed now for probably over 15 years. And I would call that rule-based task automation, right? It's really just what RPA is. And people are now saying, okay, agents are doing that. They're doing these specific sets of tasks. Well, that's not what an agent is. An agent is a collection of tasks that's then put into one system. And you're able to then query that system in natural language to then actually get that sort of desired output that you want. And so I think it's interesting to see there's a really big renewed use of RPA in the Consumer Electronics Show, but they're saying RPA are agents, and it's like, no, RPA is not agents. RPA is RPA, and so I think that's really also another fascinating thing that I've seen here as well. People trying to capture that agent trend, but they're not agents, or they're co-pilots, right? And it's like, that's not an agent either. That's a co-pilot.
Is Vegas busy right now?
Seems pretty as busy. As a whole,
yeah. Like,
yeah,
I mean,
I'd say
are you walking down the streets and like it's like?
Yeah, I'm walking down the streets, man, and I'm like, man, I miss. It's like New York all over again. That's what I'm feeling. But no, actually, honestly, surprisingly, fairly quiet, I would say, relative to kind of what I was expecting. But when you're in the actual convention centers, it's like, it's pretty packed. It's pretty packed.
Vegas is a city that's done a really good job of being able to handle traffic. And if you like, a Vegas block is like the entire downtown Norfolk block. Like,
yeah, absolutely.
Like I jokingly say that, but it's not that off.
It's not
like
off.
if you go from like the corner of
one casino.
Like if you go from like the old X-Tuple building to my old office at the 100 block, like that might be 2 casinos, maybe 1. Like it's definitely where Aria is. That's definitely 1 block, right? And so I haven't been there since the stadium's been built, but I mean they were good with traffic then, and now they have all of this traffic coming in, which is insane. And now they're building the baseball stadium, like it's a great city. It's a great. I almost moved there in like 09.
Really?
Yeah.
Why didn't you move?
Strongly concerned. I don't know. I was when I worked in TV. I didn't want to go back to DC. I knew that. And I think I was trying to get out of TV, and I was like, well, where can I go? Oh, well, I've been to Vegas. I like Vegas. And I think somehow maybe something in there just said, hey, like this is a bad idea to go to a place where you know you're going to get into a lot of trouble.
Yes. That's the first thing I noticed when I walked in. I was like, oh, I could get into a lot of trouble here. This is not good.
I mean, what's the tagline? Everything in Vegas stays in Vegas. I mean, the reason they say that is because like you can do whatever you want there.
Yeah, it's wild. I mean, I'm glad I've been focused. I've just been completely not paying attention to any of that scene. But
so I know
it's been wild.
I know of you. I don't know that. Have we ever even had a conversation before? Maybe a hi?
I don't think so. So
well, it's really interesting, Zach, because like all of a sudden, man, you know, I'm in Collab, and like I think I was in the front of assembly when I was first introduced to Charlie. It's like Charlie just showed up, you know, and it's just like, who's this guy? And like then all of a sudden you like integrated yourself within everything, and then the next thing you know, you're sitting at the front desk at Collab. Yeah, but like the truth be told, man, like from the time I met you to the time that you were integrated into the mix, it was such a short amount of time, and it was just like I don't even know your backstory, and you and I chop it up quite a bit whenever I'm in there.
Okay, so are you from here?
Nope. So I grew up in New York, and then I went to school in Montreal, Canada. I went to McGill.
The who?
McGill. The who? Okay. I don't know who they are, but yeah. It's an okay school. It's okay.
Are you being like facetious?
Yes, a little bit, but it's okay. It doesn't mean anything. Schooling means absolutely nothing.
So is that like an MIT, RIT kind of school?
So it's a liberal arts school, but it is considered to be the #1 school in Canada. So it's like not that that means anything. I don't think it really.
How does that compare to Waterloo?
I think it's. I don't know. Honestly, I don't know.
Ivy League of Canada.
Ivy League of Canada, not the
Ivy Leagues of America.
Yeah, me either.
Is Stanford a part of the Ivy League?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah,
they're the only West Coast school.
Are they the only West Coast school? They might be the only West Coast school.
Isn't it all the Northeast?
Yeah, you have Harvard, Yale.
But I feel like Berkeley too. You'd probably throw Berkeley in there too. Honestly, at this point, especially, yeah. because their
So how did
work on
you
robotics is crazy.
how did you stumble across Norfolk?
Wow. So I graduated college.
I
Had
was
no
in
idea what I
Vegas this
wanted to.
one night,
Yeah, I was
and
in
I asked
Vegas.
them.
Yeah, and they said, "Hey, you know, have you heard of Norfolk in Vegas?" I was like, "Norfolk in
There used
Vegas?
to be a
Okay,
direct
well,
flight.
there is a direct flight. I got a
There
direct
is.
flight. Yeah. Oh yeah. Let's go, Breeze. Yo, Breeze, come on, Breeze, let's go. Just first of all, shout out to the people at Economic Development in Norfolk working on getting those flights direct. Like, really good job over there. That's incredible. But yeah,
Do
so
you think
I
that has
my
anything to do with economic development?
yes, very big part.
Okay.
I mean,
Yes, absolutely.
there's a lot of deal making that goes on to try to incentivize airlines.
Absolutely, because you know, at the end of the day, like pretty much, like if they want, let's just say Breeze wanted to go there, the person who makes that case is you'd think, oh, the airline, the airport, right? But who owns the airport? It's the city. And so who's concerned with, you know, economic development in the city or concerned with economic things at all? Oh, it's economic development. So it was actually fascinating to learn that. I learned that just recently from a board member of mine. But I want to go back real quick to answer your question.
Yeah.
Because I've got ADHD, so I'll go everywhere.
Same.
I graduated. I thought I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I do still want to be an entrepreneur, but you know, probably someday. And started essentially a trading card game company. I was obsessed with Magic the Gathering growing up, and similar games like Yu-Gi-Oh, Pokemon. Played those somewhat professionally, actually. I was pretty good, but never like really took the full dive because my mom was like, "If you do that, you will be disowned." Thank you, mom. Thank you, mom. That was a great call. And I, then I decided to design this card game. Got to the point where I had a product that was ready to go. I had essentially figured out how to design the entire thing. It's actually mostly automated as well because I'm really into AI. So I had built essentially this automatic AI art and card game funnel. So it was creating cards automatically. But then I was like, okay, now I have no idea how to market this thing, and I have no idea how to raise capital in order to actually get some sort of like traction and movement on it. And I was like, okay, I don't know what to do next. And so I dropped that at the advice of some of my mentors for the time being. It was also kind of early in the market for what I was trying to do with that card game. It's pretty different. And so I essentially stumbled across Collab through like an introduction to Eileen Brewer. And I essentially was telling Eileen, hey, like I have all these ideas for like companies that I want to start. And she's like, listen, ideas mean nothing. Tim said the same thing to me when we met. Execution is everything. And I was like, what the heck are you talking about? That's not true. Ideas are everything. Ideas are so important. They're not. I mean, they're beautiful, and I think they are very important, but execution really is everything. And so then I showed up at Collab. I essentially just said, listen, like I'm going to do something. Give me something to do, whatever it is. Actually, I think I shook Tim Ryan's hand first and said, hey, I'm looking for a job. And Tim was like, who the heck is this guy?
Because did Linda Peck, was it Linda Peck that provided the intro, or was it Eileen? I think
it was Eileen.
It was Eileen, yeah.
Yeah. And then essentially like that, you know, I think Tim was like, who the heck even is this guy? And then I ended up volunteering with Collab for a couple weeks or months. And then at the accelerator, essentially helps at the accelerator, went with them on the road show, all for free. Essentially helping them figure stuff out, not using my college degree at all. And then
you're not alone there.
I think most people, and that's a flaw, but you know, I could talk about that for hours. And essentially,
you should totally use your college degree.
Oh, I mean, I do use it. It's a nice piece of art on my wall. I love that. It's a great piece of art. I'll say that.
Catches the perfect amount of dust.
Is it right there? Oh, I feel that. Yeah.
No, wait, yours is in there, Tim? No. Where's yours?
No, mine is, yeah, it's right here. Oh, Tim.
No, actually, I do. I have my MBA on the wall, but it's in front of me.
I look at the rock more than I look at that MBA. I don't have an MBA.
Oh, the rock is great.
I don't even know what the damn thing. What did I get a degree in? Let's look.
Let's find out.
Oh, I thought it was German.
Fine arts. Fine arts.
I think it's standby.
Hold it.
That's right.
Wow. Bachelor of Science in Journalism with an emphasis in broadcast news. which basically means nothing. It means I'm a former.
Well, yeah. Yeah, you're not alone, Charlie. No, I mean, it's just 4 years to mature, figure out what you want to do.
4 years.
5 years,
Yeah.
6 years.
Got the
12 years.
effect on me.
You redshirted 1 year in academics, Zach?
I mean, you could make the allegation that was 5 years of redshirting. Sometimes I question how I even was able to get that piece of paper. I went to community college for a little bit first, and I tried getting some of those because I kept changing my mind on what I wanted to do. I originally wanted to design roller coasters, and then I started taking some of those. Well, then I started taking some of those classes, and I was like, "Oh no, like this is." Like I'm decent at math.
There's a lot of math and a lot of physics, and you got to figure out that kind of like velocity with.
I bet it's easier now, with tech
with computer modeling
than it was in 02, 22 years ago. Because we were still learning on calculators back then. We had to actually cross the T, dot the I, the 9 over the 3, the square root of 44, whatever. So I think I did a semester of that, then realized, oh no, this is not going to work. Then somehow I got to, I think I want to be a sports anchor because I like sports. So that's what I ended up getting the degree in. And then I never did that. And then
what do they call that? Is it a highlight reel or whatever? What do they call it? I really enjoyed watching your reel or whatever it is.
Like a sizzle reel, a highlight reel,
sizzle
like
reel.
that.
There you go. Yeah. That was
Zack,
sweet.
I'm curious, did you ever consider doing anchoring for roller coaster rides? I feel like that would have been a good combination.
Okay, so there are some channels that do that. And looking back at that, I did have a camera. And sometimes I would sneak it onto roller coasters. Actually, in Las Vegas is the first time I did it at Circus. I don't think I had the thought to do something like that. Now I would. 10 years ago, 15 years ago, I would. But back then, no. It was, this is what I'm supposed to, I can be different. But I don't know that entrepreneurial thing hit until much later.
What do you think gave you that bug?
Actually, I think I've always been a decent leader. And then I think somewhere in there, I realized from starting to host these meetups when I was doing the software company that, maybe I can be thinking differently from that. To me, business is just marketing, right? If people don't see that thing, it doesn't matter. That's the key. And so what can I do? I always had people come over to my house and I used to throw parties in college. How did I do that? Right. It's then taking that and figuring out, okay, how do you pair that with an idea or a concept that you want? And somewhere I think those two kind of clicked and I was like, oh, because when I was getting out of TV, I'm literally rereading my Anomaly book. Tim, I started this morning, so I really just read the intro, so it's kind of funny that we're talking about this. But I remember when I was trying to get out, I was like, where am I going to go? Am I just going to go to another TV station and deal with the same crap at other places? Or I do photography at the TV station. Maybe I go become a wedding photographer or something like that because there was a guy in there that was doing that. So I feel like sometimes we get boxed into our degrees and our careers and we think that's the only thing we can do. And at some point I met this guy named Brennan. He was like, oh, why don't you come and do this aspect with me? And I was like, cool. And then during all of that, I think it just started clicking okay, there's a skill set here that you learned that you don't have to actually do any of that business side of it. I don't have to be a journalist, but that skill that you learned over here and have inherently always had as a leader can pair you into something else.
It's interesting. It's while running this morning, or maybe it was yesterday. I don't know. But thinking, like mentally preparing for the show today. And to some extent, I mean, I would even go as far as saying that, like, Charlie, you're to some degree, you're like a Zach Miller 2.0 in a sense. That Zach, because Zach
Be
showed.
careful. Be careful getting excited about that. I don't know. That's a good thing.
Oh,
You're a hell of a lot. Your style looks a lot better than my damn black T-shirt. But
oh, come on.
But just in the sense that, like, you have this person who shows up on the scene. People are like, man, who is this guy? And then, like, a lot of what you're doing today, Charlie, is questioning the status quo in terms of, like, why are we doing things the way we're doing them? There's a much better way or a simpler way of doing that, and that's a lot of what Zack did when he started Hatch. That really was the genesis, a lot of the foundation of what we see today.
I think being an outsider too, is important. Like you see all of, like, these people, let's just say in economic development locally, they're all just like transferring from city to city. So, like, there's no outside vision of something. And so, like, I didn't know anything. I just look at someone and be like, why? Like, I'm like, that's my answer to everything. Like, why? Like, why? And if they say why not? So, like, I'm a very inquisitive person. Like, I'm very nosy naturally to just, like, ask 20 questions. And I'd be like, that just doesn't make sense. Like, you want this to happen, but it does. Like, how do you envision that happening? And they don't have an answer. And
Oh my God.
Yeah. And I think that, that really kind of dovetails into, like, the whole Gen Z commission that was started. So talk to us about that in terms of, like, what is it? Why was it started, and what do you hope to get out of it?
Yeah, so I mean, I'll start with the why first, because I think it's a great story. So James Doe really put a bunch of people that he thought were cool Gen Zers together in a room. And so I want to say, he's probably somewhere around here. Hopefully he'll watch it afterwards and say thank you to James. I really think that helps me get a lot of perspective on Hampton Roads through that. So I think it's really incredible that happened. And, the why for it needs to exist is that intergenerational collaboration and leadership is fundamental. And I think a lot of Hampton Roads' success thus far has been in embracing that intergenerational leadership. And I think there's a lot of appetite for it now. And I think James probably saw that as an opportunity for, some people who are yearning for leadership roles to be able to step up and take that on as well. And, I think without, like, incredible people like you guys, I think a lot about building on the shoulders of giants. Without people like you guys, Jerry Cronin, Paul Noby, Nancy Garden, Sean Avery. Of course, I've got, my opinion on all of these people, but they're all trying to push the region forward. And I think Doug Smith, Belinda Peck, Bob Crum, all these people are opening doors for me as someone who wants to make change and saying, hey, come sit at this table. Let's have a conversation. And so I think that's really powerful. And then just going back really quick to answer the second part of your question, which is what is the Gen Z Commission? We're a regional organization focusing on the betterment of Hampton Roads through Gen Z leadership. And so we think about, for example, interviewing politicians to see where they stand on Gen Z issues. Gen Z cares a lot about quite a few things, but for example, it could be the affordability of housing, could be security in Hampton Roads. And it's interesting when you talk about security, it's the perception of security. So it's interesting to hear that. Job security, healthcare, all these issues are very important to Gen Z. And there's a lot of concern about Gen Z in Hampton Roads, especially as it relates to outmigration. But Gen Z doesn't feel like the issues are being heard and addressed. And so it's really important, I think, for us to be able to, as Gen Z, be that voice, because these doors have been opened for us, for my generation. So that's one thing we're doing. And then we've also, got demographic locational data on all of Generation Z in Hampton Roads. So we know where Zs are. And the next kind of step in that is, like, what are they doing?
What's the number one issue that Gen Zers would like to see solved or addressed?
So there was a survey that was done by the Executive Roundtable, and we want to build on that. But the first kind of step of that was understanding that, for example, affordability of housing, probably number one issue. Healthcare, probably number two issue, but the most interested. Most people put that as number two, the thing that they cared the most about. was healthcare. And I think kind of going back, I think Zach, we were talking about this beforehand, but because the military has such a strong presence in Hampton Roads, there's this sort of inflationary effect that goes on in like the housing prices, for example, that pushes it up. And the same kind of thing is true as well in healthcare, although it's actually interesting now, I'm sort of starting to see a solution, which is like that you have a lot of small companies or those small corporations which are not able to provide healthcare to their people because they're not big enough to afford it, and they're not big enough to be able to provide that as a service or something to attract talent. So it's very interesting seeing that as such a big issue in my generation, especially because in Hampton Roads specifically, there is this very entrepreneurial, do-it-yourself kind of mindset as well. And I think that exacerbates that issue, especially in combination with the fact that the largest employers are governmental agencies. And if you're not part of that, you're not going to get those benefits.
What's the comparison of the things that you just talked about to other cities? Because I can't imagine those cities not having the exact same conversations.
Absolutely.
And then the only difference is those cities are marketed heavier as being cooler. And so that's why people live there.
Yeah, honestly, it's a really great question. And that's kind of one of the next things that we're thinking about. And I'd love your insights, Zach, on how to like actually approach that conversation and approach that sort of analysis is like, how does Hampton Roads compare to the next metropolitan city on the rankings, right?
Well, and the crazy thing is that next metropolitan city above us is Nashville. And if you look at the gap between a Virginia Beach, Norfolk, Newport News MSA compared to the Nashville MSA, I mean, it's just like, dude, it is a huge gap.
Guess what the answer is, Tim? Stop doing minor league thinking and start thinking like a major league city.
I mean,
yes.
when you look at
look at Nashville. I've never been to Nashville, but
fun place.
Of course.
Mean, it's a Vegas of the East, really.
Yes, absolutely.
But like
it's got great culture.
You're like, if we're talking about this as a like, what are the things? It's just like, what's going on with Granby Street? Okay, like why are things closed at 9 o'clock? Right? Why is your vision of entertainment in the region revamping an old building and keeping it small? Right?
Yeah.
Like, what do you do? Like, these are the conversations. There's regional infighting. Like, these are all conversations that just are so unnecessary and so, in my opinion, easy to fix. But that's what we talk about all the time instead of actually thinking productive.
Yeah. I gave
exactly.
a talk.
Like, what are we doing? And then
I gave a talk yesterday. I was like, dude, we're playing checkers while everyone else is playing chess.
Or whatever the next chess game is, Like,
yes.
What'd you say you play Magic? What'd you say growing
up?
Yeah,
Magic the Gathering.
Yeah. So like, that's more aggressive than here.
And why do you think that, like, why do we, let's, be kind to the people who are trying, but like, what is it that you think is holding back Hampton Roads?
They're afraid.
And I guess first and foremost, man, that you brought up something that's really important, Charlie, and that's the fact of like let's not go after the people that are doing what their job is. And the thing is that their job is to go after things from a micro level. There's not enough looking at things from the grander scale. And it's not in their job description, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's so fascinating.
You can make arguments that I mean, how close are, like, you lost your one Fortune 500, one of your 5 Fortune 500 companies had Norfolk in the name.
I mean, it would be, I think that, and I'm totally ignorant in this. But I mean, it would be really, really cool if the headline said, for example, Virginia Beach and Norfolk going after this, or a joint effort, a joint locality effort doing something. That is what we need to see more of, or a Chesapeake and Norfolk trying to achieve this.
No one in Las Vegas. You're in Las Vegas right now. No one in Las Vegas cares that these cities are 10 minutes apart.
No, I get that. I get that.
And I'm with you, Tim. I'm just saying, like, from a global perspective,
sure.
Right? Stop thinking minor league.
Right.
think big picture. I agree with you guys. I really agree. And I think it's interesting to think about these sort of regional development organizations are coming about to think and tackle these issues. Because it's entrenched beliefs probably in a lot of ways about like how to work together on things. But honestly too, it was really fascinating to me to learn like on the actual like mechanics of the system, why it's hard to collaborate. And I'm not saying that it's not something that needs to be done. It absolutely does. But like, you know, Virginia Beach tax dollars are gotten from corporations and organizations and properties and localities and all these sorts of things that are inside of Virginia Beach. And so, of course, I would say, okay, well, Virginia Beach has this set of assets, and okay, let's work together to get something to do there. And then, okay, Norfolk has these sets of assets, and how can we build something in Norfolk that supplements the overall strategy, thinking in a synergistic sort of way or strategic sort of way, based on the individual locality's assets. And I think that what starts to happen when you think that way is you get something like the Hampton Roads Alliance. Now, I cannot say for sure because I haven't actually gone in there yet and talked to them boots on the ground. Tim, I'd love to hear your perspective on that. But I think that's sort of what the Hampton Roads Alliance is trying to do, is create this sort of regional economic development strategy where everyone can win in their own way. And I think from my experience so far, you know, like I'm a New Yorker and I kind of get it. So it's like, hey, you know, we're going to all flat heads a little bit. That Hampton Roads really has this identity of like, I want to take care of me and then I'll take care of everyone else. But also there's a lot of giving also. So it's kind of interesting juxtaposition. But I think when you take this perspective of how do we make sure that Norfolk wins and Virginia wins in a way that's greater than just the individual localities through an organization like Hampton Roads Alliance, Hampton Roads Planning District Commission, you get something interesting. But you guys have been here a lot longer than me, so tell me what's going on.
Did you just see that bodybuilder walk by?
I did.
No.
Oh my God, that guy was
jacked.
gigantic.
Oh, I missed it. I'm so
Oh
sad.
Lord, wow. Okay.
You'll have to watch the replay.
Oh
I've done
my
it.
God, he's got like this string shirt. Oh wow.
Oh, I did notice that. Oh my God.
Good. I bet you that's Body by D.
Shout out to
Body by D.
shout Sean.
He's in Yorktown. Where is he?
Yeah, and Gloucester.
Okay. Your thoughts, Tim? That was the question.
I'm trying to recollect my thoughts. Well, I think that a lot of what needs to happen, Dan, is that I think a lot of people are busy doing what needs to be done, and we've lost control of the narrative, and we need to regain control of the narrative. And and like that's one of the things that bothers me is like the legacy media, when they get something like they will, and rightfully so. Somebody was murdered on Granby Street, and they were that was one of their employees, and justice needed to happen. I think that's probably still unsolved to this day, but they will not let go of that. And so from that standpoint, we lost control of the narrative, and so we're forced to be very reactionary as opposed to being proactive. And for whatever reason, Charlie, you and I have talked about this several times, that Hampton Roads is not an early adopter type of location. We're on the end of that bell curve in terms of adoption. And, so everybody is looking at, like they want to see stuff in print media. They want to see stuff from the legacy media, whereas like Innovate Hampton Roads, we try to tell the story. We are the storyteller, but like, people will like legit say, hey, don't publish that. We don't publish this until Daily Press comes out with this first, because they're the big people. And it's just like, yeah, but do they really have your best interest in mind? They may publish you first, but it's going to be below whatever bad stuff happened first, going with the whole, if it bleeds, it leads kind of thing. So,
well, that's why, like when I launched the book, the Netflix book this summer or spring, I asked you, I was like, hey, can you guys be the one that launch it? Because I know this is something that you preach, and it's like, hey, like let's have one place where we release this stuff, and that's Innovate Hampton Roads, and that becomes the vehicle for all that stuff. So I was like, look, dude, I appreciate that. I'm gonna give you first dibs.
Yeah,
right.
And I think
I did call the other people too.
Yeah, for sure. But I think that, we've done a lot so the pendulum is swinging in terms of like, you know, and I'm happy. It makes me super, super happy that when we have guests on our show, a few weeks later, then there's an article in whatever publication.
Oh, that happens all the time.
That's great. I love that. Yeah, and there's no heartburn there.
Here's something that is very interesting. Obviously, I'm a big wrestling fan, and people can talk about the crazy circus that it is, the adult soap opera, whatever. Don't think about the actual media of it, the content of it, but just think about the company. So Triple H is the guy that we were talking about earlier. He's the chief creative officer, something like that, right? He says the other day, well, how are you guys, someone asked him, how are you guys looking at ratings? How are you looking at viewership? And he goes, look, obviously the viewership on Netflix is important, right? Yeah, there's a $5 billion deal in there. They need viewers to watch it so that the shareholders of Netflix and the C-suite there is happy. But he's like, we can't just look at that number anymore. It's not just about live. It's about 24 hours, 7 days, historical. How long is it going to be on that strip that we talked about earlier? But then also people talking about it on social. When you get millions of people watching it on a YouTube or a Facebook video or something like that, it's all of those things matter, and they all collectively tell a story. And so what I'm saying is there's a lot of vehicles now that people can go to. And the legacy media that you're talking about, Tim, that's a vehicle. But there are other vehicles that can get out a lot more. Like when I had my TV show from 15 to 20, whenever that was. And I remember, I know I told you this story, Tim. Like I was talking to the person who had the idea of the show. So she was the GM of the TV station. She's like, well, we're going to have this TV show and we're going to do it on Sundays at 9:00 on ABC. I'm like, cool. But also let's simulcast it basically live on YouTube. And the funniest thing is that I think we got like 25,000 viewers a week was the number, which I guess is a lot. I don't know. It sounds like a lot.
Yeah.
But then the YouTube videos started getting a lot more hits. And they started using those numbers in their sales because that number was a higher number that they could represent and say, hey, look, we're getting this here. Great. But also here too. First of all, first episode ever, I'm standing up. I don't know if you realized that.
I did notice that. I was going to comment that on the beginning of the show, but there was this, man, I wanted to get to our conversation with Charlie, but, and it goes back to the whole thing about playing chess, man. Like to me, I know that legacy media is they are going to age out. And so with Charlie and the Gen Z folks, they don't go there. Do you go there for your source of information? I highly doubt it. And so like I am more focused on, hey man, we need to be the bridge builder for the Gen Z folks, and we need to build those alliances because that will someday become we will become the leading source of information.
You have to think in what was the saying for the first time ever? There's 5 generations in the workforce. That means you have to communicate to 5 different generations. And how do those people get that information? And it's not just posted online or just post it, call up the editor of the local newspaper anymore, have them write about it on typewriter. It's got to be in a bunch of different places.
Yeah.
I want to add on that because I think what we're really kind of dancing around is that there's omni-channel distribution and that the omni-channel distribution in Hampton Roads is unaligned. So, we can be doing the ground roots work to Gen Z, which I think, frankly, Tim, you do a great job of. But if the legacy media is selling a different vision to, the people who are decision makers and leaders, the leaders aren't actually connected to the galvanized base that they've just created. And there's a lot of energy down, at the grassroots level for, real change in Hampton Roads. Like I hear it all the time. I hear people telling me all the time. And I see so many heartbreaking stories, frankly, at the grassroots level in Hampton Roads. But the top doesn't get it. The top doesn't see it because they're sold a different story.
Do you believe that? Like, genuinely, do you believe that they are almost, I don't believe that. I believe they're like, I used to hear people that are like we used to do. So Tim has the weekly email, right? We did that for years before Tim started it. And I would hear people at the top say, oh, well, there is nothing like this. I'm like, you freaking open my email every week and you click the links. So it's there. They're getting it. They're consuming it. The difference, I think, in what you're saying is they're listening, not hearing. Is that the line? Or they're hearing, not listening, whatever. It's not resonating with them that they are actually taking in this information. And maybe that's the missing piece, but I don't believe that they're not watching content in other places. Sure, they might read a magazine, a newspaper, watch the news, things like that, but they are also on that bad boy.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that. And I think it's really about exactly what you said. And I'd love to connect more offline with the Gen Z Commission, thinking about how to resonate with the leadership, even because we've thought a lot about that as well. And I think part of what it comes down to is if you're comfortable, why do you need to change? And so you have to sell, like just think of how we say in the startup world, it's like, if I'm selling to a major corporation something that I've built, but it doesn't solve their number one, number two problem, we're not going to get them to pay attention. You got to find where it hurts and push on that spot, just like Harvey Specter does in Suits, if you guys are familiar.
Oh, God. Most overrated show, like second most overrated show of all time. Could that show have just ended? Could that show have just ended after season 7? I mean,
yes.
What
absolutely
in the worldwide are we doing that show? And now we're bringing it back in California? Like this? No.
I think that could be fun. And they milk it, right?
The only show that I've ever finished that I've started invested so many hours of time into. Everyone who ever told me to watch that show, I hate you.
Can we circle back? What show are we talking?
Suits.
It was so good for so long.
Yeah, well, I guess. Yeah, we're on a hiatus.
Just off the cliff.
Yeah, we're on a hiatus right now, and so maybe I'll stay on that hiatus.
Yeah,
so
don't tune it back. Don't tune back in.
But the thing is,
take a mud bath.
I want to circle back around though, because like there is a tidal wave of change that's about to hit, and I don't think that it's on people's radar. And
what makes you say that?
Well, because AI is going to change everything, and I think that we're on the clock right now. That until we see the first $1 billion business, the first unicorn that is operated by a solo founder. So, like the whole dynamics of business is going to change in terms of you no longer need 400 people to have a unicorn business. You're going to be able to do it with 1, 2, or 3 people with the use of AI, and that's going to change. That's going to change everything, and we need to start thinking about that today because it just we're not. I just don't think we're prepared for that.
No, the infrastructure though. I mean, I think that's close, but I don't again speaking from the CES perspective, and I do a lot of research on the frontier of AI. It's essentially what I consume my life around. If you don't follow me on LinkedIn, to get a little more of that drip on what's going on in AI. And also, I'd love your guys' perspective on what kind of content would be super valuable. So we'll do some customer discovery here too. But the the infrastructure isn't really in place for that today. But you're right, Tim. Like we need to be thinking like it's a game of chess, right? Where in one move ahead in chess, you're going to lose 100% of the time. 2 or 3 moves ahead, well, now you're actually getting somewhere, right? And you have a strategy that's going to work, but you're playing against other players in a market. So I think you're right. We got to start teaching our entrepreneurs how to utilize this technology, and then find a way to get the funding to be the people who can provide that. Because fundamentally, too, we want to be exporting that ability, right? We want to be exporting the ability for entrepreneurs to be able to actually create these one-person empires.
Yeah,
that's what we want to be able to do. Well, I talked to one more second. Sorry, Tim. I talk a lot too about how do you build an identity for Hampton Roads? I think about that a lot. I think you think about that a lot too, Tim. And I think Zack, you probably do as well. But it's you got to find something really amazing. And there's a lot of things that Hampton Roads has, and it could do a lot of different things and export that all day, every single day.
Yeah, and I think that to build onto that, I think that there's so much fear, uncertainty, and doubt about AI and the fact that it's going to eliminate jobs. And it's just, we can't look at it from an elimination standpoint. Sure, it will eliminate certain jobs, but it's going to go after the jobs, one, that nobody wants or can't be filled. But the other thing, organizations need to start to think of from an efficiency standpoint. I can be 30% more efficient with utilizing AI today, and that means that my bottom line, but one, my top line is not going to be as high, but my bottom line is going to be higher as well. And I don't need to hire the same number of people and I can just continue to get more and more and more efficient. So it's just like I guess to take that one step further, we don't need to look at things in the sense of labor shortage, labor shortage, labor shortage. We need to look at this of how can we leverage AI so that we can be more efficient, and then there no longer is a labor shortage, and now we're thriving as opposed to like coming up with.
So what do you say to those people who are losing jobs because of it?
I don't know if I've not met one.
I think the truth, I actually talked to someone yesterday, and I want to say that the threat of job loss is very real. And it's going to change the world, and it's going to happen slowly, and then it's going to happen all at once. And part of the reason why I started EfficienzAI was really to, first of all, educate on AI, but also to really say that, like, we need to be the ones in control of this, because I think there are people who, if they were in control of this, it would not go well. I think there are people who, and I love these people, a lot of these people, I think, about shareholders a lot, but like shareholders are fundamentally concerned with one thing. They're fundamentally concerned with the return on their investment. And if you're thinking that way in a world where AI is going to essentially disrupt the entire job market, which it is going to do, it is on track to do that, especially in combination with robotics, I get very concerned with how that ends up playing out. I think there's a couple of different realities we could step into, one of which is quite dystopian, and the other of which it could be quite promising. And so, you're thinking about how do we ensure that the right people are in charge of that, so that we don't step into the 1984 world, essentially, where everything is controlled by, and it wouldn't be a government either, it'd probably be a private corporation. The allocation of resources essentially isn't going to anyone other than the people who are glib and who want.
The interesting thing is,
world.
Going back to Zach, your question, the people that are going to lose their job, like back in the day when email first came out, and the boss would have his secretary print out all the emails, and then put the stack of paper on his desk, and then he or she would then handwrite the response to that email, then give it back to the secretary, and then the secretary would respond. This is going to be the same deal when it comes to AI. You're either going to embrace it and become more efficient, right?
Yes.
Or you're going to be left. You're going to be left behind
in the dust. And you have to listen. I mean, there's no option. You have to learn it. Pandora's box is open. You got to get in with it. But Tim, thinking about, hey, in the same time, we're so excited to have a $1 billion company run by 3 people. What happens when that's the norm? What happens when small corporations can get that much leverage, and you're a shareholder and you're an investor? Why would you invest in a company that has 1,000 people? Why would you invest in a company that
for
has
sure.
10,000
Yeah, I mean, that's
people?
going to change the game in terms of when it comes to investing in companies, because they're not going to have to raise money the same way that they did. But I'm looking at things from if I'm looking at things from a city planning standpoint, we don't have to look at, we have X amount of million square feet of shovel ready type of office space. We're going to be able to, if we were building like next generation office space where we can build a $1 billion company with such a low number of employees that,
Hey, can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what's going on.
That's where
Someone called me on my phone and it messed everything up. Let me refresh real quick. Sorry, guys.
But that's where things are going to. The game is going to change, in my opinion.
That's why we have it here on the record, so we could figure those things out.
Yeah, I mean, it's exciting times for sure.
What do you think it'll do to sports?
What do to sports?
Yeah, what do you think that the robots will do to sports? Do you think that we'll keep watching humans, or do you think we'll have robots playing sports in the future?
No, I don't think that we're going to have. I don't think we'll be watching robots do sports, but I think that what's going to continue to happen is leveraging AI for injury prevention, leveraging AI that these people are, these athletes are going to continue to get bigger, stronger, and faster, just like we've seen in football over the course of the past several years. It's records and strength are just going to continue to get shattered because athletes are going to become more and more fierce.
Records get beaten when they add more games. So any of these
records, I guess I'm more talking about like the 3 minute or the 3 hour marathon or the 4 minute mile kind of thing.
I see.
I think also too, just sorry, I want to finish that point too, which is that creativity becomes a superpower in the new world, where if you have ideas, and it's so fascinating, but if you have ideas and you have some sort of product market idea, you can go from that idea to reality very quickly with low capital barriers in order to do it. I think that world is really exciting, but I really do hope that we can acknowledge that there is a substantial amount of risk that's going to happen, and there's going to be a substantial amount of shift that, like, as people who are in this space thinking about innovation and have the ears of, in some ways, of people who, you know, will impact policy, that we can keep those realities in mind, that we have a obligation to steer it towards Wall-E as opposed to steering it towards, you know, dystopian reality of like, okay, everyone who has the company gets paid, they can take care of themselves, and everyone else, good luck, you know, have fun.
Yeah, that's interesting. You know, the interesting thing about Hampton Roads is that, like, the time it takes to get from, say, Williamsburg to Virginia Beach, depending on tunnel traffic, that could take an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours to get from the top to the bottom. And when you look at that much travel time, and then you realize the fact that there's not a lot of available land left in this region. I mean, it's just not there. Virginia
What do you think
Beach
about micro air transit, Tim? Micro air.
No, I think that that's going to be, honestly, if we're talking about predictions, I think that that will probably be one of the things that saves the Newport News Airport. And that will be, and the same thing, and that will be the thing that expands what's a landlocked type of Norfolk Airport as well.
What are we talking about? Micro air? Like, what is this?
Well, like vehicles that can transport people that can take off and land on things as small as a soccer field or on top of a parking garage.
Yeah.
I would rather us focus on hoverboards.
Hey, I'm down for hoverboards too. I like hoverboards. And flying cars. I think we're probably close to the end here, which is so sad. I have so many questions for you, Tim and Zach. Like, but I mean, I'd love to know too. Like, Tim, you know, we're talking about, you know, reclaiming the narrative. My God, such an important concept, like so important. And in general, at Innovate Hampton Roads, what are you struggling with? What are the biggest problems that you're facing that, wearing any of the hats that I wear, that I can show up and help fix those or help to mitigate a little bit of the pain?
I think the big thing to control the narrative would be, I would love to be inundated with so much great things that are happening that we're like, we have a hard time like keeping up with all of the narrative that needs to be told. That would be a beautiful thing, as opposed
to piggyback that. I think what is not being done in this is people are not raising their hand and marketing themselves and even letting people know.
Yeah.
And so we only know as much as we know. Right. And so I think an argument could be made, oh, I open this email and it's about the same 4 companies every week. It's not that those are the only 4 companies in the area. I'm just saying this as an outside.
Proactive companies.
Right. So, and I'm not like, I am not like, I do this show. I'm not like, this is me on the, as an outsider. Like, it's not like I'm looking at Innovate and this is my opinion. People are afraid to market themselves. They're afraid to say anything. They think that they can just stay in their lane and somehow they'll see success. They don't, they're just, they don't know how to market basically. And so there's far more than 4 companies that are on the Innovate Hampton Roads weekly email, but those are the ones that are out there a lot because they're proactive. And so I would encourage people to email Tim at innovate757.org every week about something.
I love,
and guess what?
I love getting up.
Like it's that simple. And guess what? I bet 7 out of the 10 times he'll include it in the email. And if it's not in the email, they'll do a post about it on LinkedIn. Like, so it's just like
proactivity.
Tell your story more, right? Like I would say this because I think I've seen it from my own eyes. Everything that's been in the startup studios that's ever been a company, how many of those people actually do what we're saying right now? I would say less than 1%. Right?
Yeah.
And so it's like, stop thinking like that your company is just going to magically see people it's magically going to get like all this praise. It doesn't.
Yes.
So be that. Like, I know that like we've interviewed several people from the show, but my understanding is it's difficult to get those people to say yes. And it's like, your shit doesn't stink, or your shit, like you're not there yet. You're not that busy. You might think you're busy, but you're not. So why don't you
are you
just
busy
spend
doing
an
the
hour
right things?
Well, of course. And the answer is no.
Yeah. Yeah.
I say
Yeah,
that because I've lived it and I've seen it all the time. It's like the people that talk are that's what you want. You want people to know about these companies, right? Why do you know about these bars in Nashville, right? Why do you know about this place and the companies at CES right now? Because they're talking about it in a bunch of different vehicles. It's the same thing.
Yeah, and getting out there and being unafraid.
I'm off my soapbox. I
apologize.
I apologize for people who don't like me to cuss, but I cuss all the time.
Got to be you. That's the most important thing, I think. Can I? Do we have time for me to keep going on that?
Go ahead. You're on the clock.
Awesome.
It's your schedule. We're working around.
Okay, beautiful. Well, I got more time because this is great. I love good conversations. I think a lot about that exact idea, because I think people can make great products but never talk about them. And how do you balance sort of like wanting to like, because I think it's all about iteration. The startup game is all about pivot and iteration. It's really about almost nothing else. It's about, you have this idea, great. Now go market the idea to the people who be your end consumer and see if they actually care about it. And if they, I mean, first of all, you should start with customer discovery. That's the real first step, right? You have this idea, go talk to people who could buy it. Is it the thing that really is the most painful to them? Take that information. I think we should even market that. Like, just make a literal like AI drawing of it, market that, be like, oh my God, guys, look at this amazing Rabbit R1, which we haven't even made yet, and it sucks. It's a terrible product. Made $50 million, dude, you know? And it's like, stop building, start marketing. I think Zach, you're totally right.
Well, yeah.
And then use that to iterate.
100%.
The amount of people who have no money for a marketing budget or no concept of marketing is just obnoxious to me.
Well, circle back
like,
to the very beginning of the show. Look at what MCON did. You know, I mean, like, dude, he created a video, he got customer feedback, he solved his own problem, and $900,000 in pre-orders later, look where he's at.
Yeah, I mean, that kid, I mean, come on. You're gonna, like, that's the thing too, it's if you really want it, you can't make excuses. You got to find the solution, right? If you have no ability to market, like, well, have you talked to Tim Ryan? Have you asked the people who know the solutions in the system? Because there's a lot of resources in our system to be able to say, okay, yeah, you can actually go on to Tim Ryan's podcast and talk about your product literally for as long as you want, and then get feedback from Tim and from Zach on why it's great and why it's not.
Yeah. And the thing is that I would feel really bad if people were afraid to do that, or not that I was going to come back and say something, but just in the sense of, what if it didn't work out? Well, based on the post that I put out,
you don't spend a lot of time on it.
Well, I guess my thing is, man, is that I am, when I say that I'm founder friendly and founder first, man, like, I am super protective of those founders, and the same holds true in terms of why I felt that it was so necessary to jump out in front of the news about DroneUp, because some people are just itching to put out that negative story and try to spin it in a negative light. And that's we've got to get something out there first, because this is welcome to startups. Startups are super hard.
Yeah.
And those things are going to happen.
Did something happen with them?
Well, the relationship with DroneUp and Walmart dissolved. That ended. And so, I mean, and that goes to the if it bleeds, it leads kind of headline. And we needed to get in front of that. And we need to, and like I guess the big thing that needs to be repeated over and over and over again is that innovation that needs to operate at the speed of or at the speed of business, not the speed of bureaucracy. Yeah, and it's just like, I think that from a regulatory standpoint, we totally the bureaucrats let a company like DroneUp down because they've been around way too long. They've proven the safety. They've proven the autonomous systems. All of that it works, but they just got beyond line of sight authority. That should have happened years ago. I mean, like, and in China, that drone delivery is a standard mode of delivery in China right now because they did not let rules and regulations get in the way of that.
Yeah,
He's
and
looking for the
it's
bodybuilder.
fascinating. Oh yeah, I think. Oh, there he actually is right over there. It's pretty
Who's
wild.
that?
Look at Jack,
The bodybuilder.
the bodybuilder. Yeah, it's fascinating because it's like, I don't know. There's some part of me that again is like, bureaucracy can be helpful, but it's like also from the
Sure.
people who actually understand it is really important.
And
And
if
I think
they,
too.
yeah, 100%.
No, go ahead.
I'm sorry. I'm just super passionate about that. All that to say, man, is that I am very, very protective of the founders, and I will go on the mat and fight for you.
You're not a wrestler. Don't lie.
Well, I through you, I am, Zach.
I'm not a
Yeah,
wrestler
see,
either. I'm a viewer of wrestling, sports
But
entertainment.
we got to get
will-
Zack wrestling.
I
That'd
will
be fun.
stand up for those founders because, dude, I get it. It's hard, and
It is
you're
really
putting
hard.
everything out there, and you're exposing the good, the bad, and the ugly. For everyone to judge, and it's just like you, person who's reporting on this, that wants to put a negative take on something. You have no idea, how difficult running a startup is, and you have no idea what it's like to stay up at night cringing because your stomach hurts because you have no idea what's going to happen next, so to founders out there, I got your back, and
Well, it's like when I got rid of my office, there was negativity towards that, and I'm just like, seriously, like I was ready for this to be done from this
Yeah.
office perspective. Like this is like mostly my decision, and it's just like,
I feel like it's interesting too. It's like if you're not falling in line with what needs to be done, there's often some sort of
but
kickback.
what line is supposed to be there? Like this is, owning a business. There is no lines.
Yeah, I guess it depends. Honestly, it depends on who I guess gave you flack. But I wanted to share too, Tim. Have you ever heard the man in the arena quote?
yeah.
Yeah. So it's interesting when people want to hate,
Is that the Teddy
but they're
Roosevelt
not in
one?
it. Yes.
Well, everyone's a
yeah,
Monday
that-
morning quarterback, but they don't actually like. You get these people, these pundits, if you will. I
Yes.
don't know what pundit means, but I'm going to call them a pundit. But
You got it right.
You got these people like me that they played football in third grade, right? And they think that they can talk about sports just because they watch it, but they have no knowledge of it. And it's just like you've never done it, like
Yeah.
so you don't know what's going on. The same thing in business, right?
Yeah.
You never done it. You just watch Shark Tank, so shut the hell up. It's not
Yeah.
the same thing, right? The emotional
It's so
side
true.
of that.
I mean, I've had the tough conversations, that I've an investment go to zero. I've had the conversation that to tell my wife that, hey, we took the L on that one, or hey, I'm going to have to push off getting paid this pay period because I need to make sure that the rest of the team is paid first. Those are tough conversations, and those are the things that are going to keep you up
Not
at
even
night.
conversations. They're tough just to live with.
Sure.
I mean, I remember when the Hatch 2 days, I think it was Hatch 2, basically like all the money was lost. We invested in 4 companies, whatever it was. And I had to, reach out to those individuals and say, yo, thanks for your money, but I lost it all. Remember,
Yeah.
like,
I mean, my dude, and like, so when I get that email from a founder saying, hey man, we're shutting down, the last thing I have is like anger or disappointment, man. My heart goes out to them because I just like, man, I know that had to take so much time to like come to the realization that I do have to send this email out. I have to make the conscious choice to shutting the doors down and winding the business down.
But I don't know that you ever actually convince those pundits that is even a thing. I think it's just naturally ingrained in them, and everyone is a pundit in something.
It's a paycheck Friday night, baby. It's coming in.
I don't know what that means, but let's go get margaritas. I don't like liquor.
Or it's the 15th or it's the 30th, and my paycheck will arrive.
But that's okay. I'm okay with that. That's the life they live. I'm totally fine with people wanting to live like that. I think right. That's 90%. 90. I would imagine 96% of people are employees or teammates,
and that's totally
okay.
Cool.
they're an incredibly important piece to all of this until we start having these three people billion-dollar businesses that Tim's talking about using the robots. But that's the life that we were told to live. And it happens. All right, this is getting off the knockers. I don't know what knockers are, not rockers. Is there a place that you want to go visit in Vegas, right? That non-CES related? Is there a place that you're like, oh, I got to go do? See?
Honestly, I kind of want to stop by the acquisitions.com headquarters and just like look at it. That's Alex Hormozi's private equity company.
Okay.
He's a big inspiration in a lot of ways to what I think I want to do with my life. So he.
You know what's interesting about that guy though? Marketing.
Yeah. Oh, great marketer. Incredible marketing. Yeah. Incredible marketing. Yeah, make an offer people feel stupid saying no to. I love that.
Okay, so when you're back in Norfolk in a couple of days and you're like, damn, Vegas was fun, the food was great, you went to the place that Tim was telling you to go to, Earl Sandwich, whatever it was.
Earl Sandwich.
You get back in town, you're like, oh, this is my go-to place. I have to go get a snack, get some grub. What is that place? Any place in the 757? Where is it?
Oh, that's a really good question. I mean, honestly, right now for snacks,
any meal, whatever.
I really love. My dad's a private chef, so I really love his cooking. So I would go to Gourmet Organic Dinners LLC for any of my food needs. He does really great private catering.
Plug for your father. Good job.
Yeah, definitely.
That doesn't count though.
And then otherwise, I love all the the cafes. Oh, Granby Pizza. I really love Granby Pizza. It reminds me of New York.
I've never had it. I guess because I always just end up walking and I end up stumbling into Bendy's. Yeah.
Yeah.
You ever been to the Donut Dugout?
No, that sounds really good though.
I was in Norfolk yesterday. I got my teeth cleaned. I'm good. No cavities. Thank you.
Woo-hoo. Let's go.
I made the executive decision to not go left out of that parking lot. Definitely thought about it. Definitely thought about going there on the way in as well. Didn't do that. I've been there 3 times now, I believe. One was for you, Tim.
And it changed my life.
Thank you, Jared Beasley of Astoria, for notifying me when I emailed him a couple weeks ago. I was like, yo, I'm craving a donut. Tell me where to go. He's the donut king. So
what is it called again?
The Donut Dugout.
It's right behind Dumars.
I think I'm going to get that as a treat tomorrow. The rumor has it.
No, Tim, I'm going to get it for you. So I'm going to drop it by. By the way, do you work downtown, Tim? No, right? You work from home.
Or a lot of times I'm in Hampton at Reactor.
He left us again. What a silly little boy.
This is a fun show. This might be. I think that the longest. It's either one or two. This is either
the longest. Yeah, because what homeboy from
Jason Calacanis might be the longest.
You think? Oh, I was thinking it was what was his name? Paul? I can't think of his name. He spoke at Start Norfolk 3.
Oh, yeah, Paul Singh.
Might be Paul Singh.
You guys hear me?
Not pulsing. Paul Singh. Well, he could hear you, but yeah. Charlie, this has been wonderful. Any final thoughts?
All right.
Thank you much.
Like, subscribe, share, all that stuff. Zach, it's always fun.
I don't know about this stand-up thing right now. I don't know. I think I probably should have sat a little bit during this, but we did it all.
You look good.
All 74 minutes of it. Thank you all. Peace.
So long.